Welcome back to Breslov Pirkey Avot. My name is Eliyahu Beta. Today we're going to be looking at chapter 1, Mishnah 8. B'Shem Hashem na'aseh v'natzliach. ויהודה בן טבעי ושמעון בן שטח קיבלו מהם. יהודה בן טבעי אומר, אל תעש עצמך כעורכי הדיינים, וכשיהיו בעלי דינים עומדים לפניך, יהיו בעיניך כרשעים, וכשנפטרים מלפניך, יהיו בעיניך כזכאים, כשקיבלו עליהם את הדין. Yehuda ben Tabai and Shimon ben Shatach received the tradition from them. Yehuda ben Tabai said, when sitting as a judge, do not conduct yourself like the advocates. While the litigants stand before you, regard them as wicked. And when they leave you, regard them as meritorious, once they have accepted the verdict. Okay, we're talking about judgment, actual judgment, and how to treat this whole concept of when people are coming to be judged, how to look at them before, during, and after. So let's see what the Breslov insights say. While the litigants stand before you, regard them as wicked. Rabbinical court judges have the power to turn all business transactions in the world into Torah. For in truth, all transactions conceal Torah, as Reb Nachman explains. Therefore, when you engage in business, only the external aspect of your mind should be engaged in the details of the transaction. Your inner being should remain constantly bound to God. What it's saying is that, your actions might be in something. You might be cleaning the floors. But if what you're doing has godliness in it, in other words, if you're doing this because this is what's in front of you to do and it's what you need to do in order to be a good person, in order to feed your family, then that's Torah. Right? If your intentions are connected to God, then it doesn't matter what you do. You don't have to stop your day and go into shul or go into a forest to meditate in order to connect to God. It's through the mundane, through the daily, that when we connect there, well, we're kind of left without any mundane. Let's continue. Given this, we can understand the words of Yehuda ben Tabai. While the litigants stand before you, regard them as wicked. And when they leave you, regard them as meritorious once they have accepted the verdict. At first glance, this instruction seems enigmatic. Why should both litigants be regarded as wicked? What sin did the innocent party commit? And why should both subsequently be considered meritorious? However, when understood in the light of the lesson mentioned above, it all makes sense, referring to the lesson of everything being Torah. At the outset, both litigants should be regarded as wicked, even the innocent party, for he too would not be standing in a rabbinical court of law unless he erred in some way. Because he failed to bind his mind to the Torah while doing business, he was compelled to appear before the rabbinical court. He is even considered wicked, for the righteousness of a Jew depends on the Torah and on his faith in God. As it is written, the tzaddik lives by his faith. Here what it's saying, well, a few things. First of all, it's saying, listen, if you're completely innocent, you did nothing wrong, or you did things right, you crossed your T's and dotted your I's, chances are you're not going to appear in court. So there's a little bit of guilt in everybody that's going to be judged, it's what the message is saying here. It's also saying that the tzaddik lives by his faith, which means that the tzaddik knows, the person that's bound to Hashem, he knows that all of the externalities are a means to an end, but the actual end is what Hashem decides or decrees, right? So that's where the faith comes in. Because when I believe that everything is determined from above, I'm going to make sure that everything that I do below is to the letter of the law. Because if I know that the results are up to him and not up to my actions, then I know that my actions can be as pure as they need to be, because that's what's going to bring the best and most pure and most abundant results. Because the entire Jewish people are believers, sons of believers, they're called tzaddikim. As it is written, your people are all tzaddikim. Yet one who forgets his connection to the Torah, and whose faith is weak while he conducts his business affairs, with the result that he must appear before the court, deserves to be regarded as wicked. Now here, I think what he's saying is that in that particular deed, it's not like there's one person that's going to be completely and totally clean and the other one's completely guilty. It's, hey, there's something about your actions that brought you into this situation that it's not 100% in flow. right? And that's what it's saying, is that don't always assume that somebody's 100% anything, or some actions that we have aren't 100% anything. You've got to look at them in a very cold way and then determine, well, this is what the justice says, but the fact that you're even here, hey, wake up, take a look. After the litigants are dismissed, however, both are considered meritorious. Once they have accepted the verdict, they set aright all the damage they caused, and their business dealings all become Torah retroactively. Both are now considered meritorious. Even the one who is judged guilty, by virtue of his accepting the verdict of the rabbinical court, all his business dealings are transformed into Torah. This is a beautiful thing. It reminds me of something my rabbi, Rav Malech, said once in Mexico. He says, the Jew, he never loses. He always learns. There's when the person that's guilty accepts the fact that he's guilty and the verdict of the court, and he pays his dues, he's no longer guilty. We're not perfect human beings. We're not created as ministering angels. We're bound to make mistakes, and that's why the Torah is full of the laws of what to do when these mistakes are made. What makes everything Torah? It's not that we don't make mistakes and therefore we follow Torah. No, it's that when we do, we quote unquote man up, accept the verdict, do what needs to be done in order to fix that which needs to be fixed, and then we're meritorious. That's the merit. The merit is accepting that which is and doing that which needs to be done in order to amend anything that needs to be amended. Next, we are going to go into the digest of commentaries. While the litigants stand before you, regard them as wicked. Even when the judge knows one of the litigants to be a righteous man, he must regard his testimony critically. Right? We kind of touched on this a second ago. Even if you know the person's innocent, when he's giving you his testimony, you have to listen to him with ears of no, you're not. Not that you're trying to prove him wrong, but you're listening in a way that you're not biased in order to prove him right. And I think that that's why wicked is chosen here as opposed to righteous. When you're looking at the wicked and you're really meticulously looking at everything because you want to prove yourself. When the righteous person is saying the person that you're assuming is right, you're not going to be looking for fault. So look for things in a critical eye so that you can actually come to a judgment that encompasses the actual situation. Regard them as meritorious once they have accepted the verdict, even if one of the litigants was untruthful in arguing his case. Do not take him to be a confirmed liar. Now that he has been found guilty and accepted the verdict, assume that he has repented and has resolved never to repeat his offense. Here, I'll share with you a way or a theory I have with my children. When my children do something wrong and I ask them, hey, did you do this? And they say no and they create a story, they get in trouble for the lie in the story, not for the thing that they did wrong. If they admit what they did, if there's a consequence because they have to repair something or do something, they'll get it, but it'll be much less and much sweeter than if they lie about it, than if they're not being it. But the second, even after that, once they accept, okay, yeah, this is it, that's it. It's done. It's in the past. So too with us in our own mistakes. Once we accept the verdict, then we can move on and be meritorious. And the biggest people that we judge on a day-to-day basis are ourselves, or is me. And when I look at myself after I've passed a judgment on myself and I've accepted it, then I also have to listen to this Mishnah and look at myself as meritorious. And we don't do that often. Sometimes even after we've already paid our dues, we've already done teshuvah, we keep kicking ourselves about things that we've already paid for. That's here. It's like when you did it, when you paid your dues, when you admitted it, when you accepted it, if you had to apologize or if you had to pay or whatever you had to do, you did, then you should look in the mirror as somebody that's meritorious. I like that. Continuing, once they have accepted the verdict, Rabbi Nachman says, if you wish to perceive the light hidden for the tzaddikim, the Oreganus, that is, to grasp the secrets of Torah destined to be revealed in the future, you must learn to fear God alone. In this way, you will elevate fear to its source. Here, remember, we use fear and awe interchangeably, even though I prefer awe. You can attain this through self-judgment. When you practice hitbodedut, pouring your heart out to God in your own words, you must judge yourself regarding all your past deeds. By doing so, you will overcome all your mundane fears. Any fear that you may feel would be directed only towards God. There's that fear, I think, that we have of the things that we've done, of the way that we look at ourselves, that lets us walk around like we have a bill to pay, so to speak. But when we pour ourselves out to Hashem, when we open up and we have nothing hidden, no secrets with Him, then we can walk through our lives without fear. Doesn't mean we have other things that we have to walk around with, but fear is paralyzing. So we want to be able to direct that fear that we have towards the one place that we can convert it into awe. On the other hand, when a person does not judge himself, he's judged from above. This judgment is clothed in worldly things, which all become God's emissaries in carrying out the decree. Therefore, we see that when suffering is decreed upon a person, it usually comes about through something insignificant and hardly noticeable. Through this small thing, sickness or some other form of suffering that then befalls him. Heaven's judgment has been garbed in this form to visit upon him the decree that he deserves. But when one takes pains to judge his own actions, heaven's judgment is nullified. Then he need not fear anything. Nothing in the world will strike fear into the heart in order to spiritually awaken him, because he has already awakened himself. In this way, heaven fulfills the dictum, regard them as meritorious once they have accepted the verdict, since they have judged themselves. This is how one elevates fear to its source, so that he will fear God alone. Then he will be able to perceive the light hidden for the tzaddikim. If we realize that everything that is put in front of us is for our benefit and for us to learn, then anytime we are made aware of places that we are off, we should be celebrating. When we are hiding, when we're not telling the truth, when we're not being completely sincere, then there is this fear, not awe, this fear that exists of getting caught, of getting found out, of getting discovered, of slipping, of telling the wrong thing. So we live in this constant fear of having to cover up the things that we have yet to receive judgment on. By judgment, I mean analyze, look at, learn from, and move forward. Right? Hashem isn't bored and saying, let's see what Eli's doing. Let me send him a test. No, it's like, oh my gosh, Eli's a little bit off track. Let me send him a little reminder that he wants to or needs to align himself. So if I can get that reminder in a very, very simple way, like that small emissary that Hashem says, and that, oh wow, I wake up, let me get back aligned. There we go, I'm good. It doesn't need to keep sending me things. When I accept the verdict, the judgment is done. When I accept that things have already happened, and I can move forward, and I can look at them, accept them, change them, and do what I need to do in order to amend, then there's nothing to fear anymore. And I'm left with the only true awe, which is knowing that everything not only comes from him, but is perfectly set up and orchestrated for me, or for you, or for everybody in their particular moment. Torah business. The Baal Shem Tov taught that attending to business matters is also considered Torah and the service of God. Giving the example of the teaching, someone who barters a cow for a donkey, comes from the Gemara. He remarked, if studying the laws of bartering is Torah, then actually bartering the cow for a donkey is certainly putting Torah into practice. For even more than the study of the Torah's laws, God values the fulfillment of his commandments, as this means living in accordance with the Torah. God created everything for his glory, and therefore it is possible to find godliness in everything. Those who seek that godliness in everything are always engaged in Torah, even while engaging in business or the mundane. So we're going to close with what we started with, which is everything that we do has a basis and is found somewhere in the Torah. Now we can do them, and we're quote unquote fulfilling the Torah, but we're not really enjoying from the light because we're not aware of the fact that we're fulfilling the Torah. So I can go out and I can trade my donkey for a cow or my cow for a donkey, and it could be a wonderful business transaction. But if I don't realize that this is something, or if I don't put into consciousness the fact that, hey, there's laws governing this, and that's in the Gemara, and God is involved in this, then even the tiniest things are going to actually be like I am fulfilling the study and the living and the connection that I get through Torah study. And we can even take this a little bit further. Did you know that there's actually a commandment in the Torah to pay somebody on time. So if I go to the grocery store and I get told that it's this much money and I pay them, I'm fulfilling a mitzvah from the Torah. But if I just pay the person, I'm fulfilling it, but I don't get credit for fulfilling the mitzvah because I'm not consciously aware that I'm fulfilling the mitzvah. But if when I'm paying, I say, oh, look, right now I'm fulfilling a mitzvah of paying on time, it's like I just did a mitzvah from the Torah and I get all the light and all the credit and all the connection and all the beautiful benefits of living a life that's close to the source of love, that's close to Hashem. So when people are saying you should spend all of your time in the study of Torah, that can be interpreted this way of, even if you're not sitting down and reading a book and physically studying Torah, if you're connected to God, if Hashem is in your actions and your thoughts and your intentions and your desires, then every single thing that you do is considered living and studying in Torah. So may we have the mindfulness, consciousness, awareness, or whatever other keyword or plug word or fun word we can use to just being aware and present, to bring Hashem into everything that we do, and be curious to see how that works. Baruch Adonai Leolam, Amen v'Amen.